Welcome to the Oklahoma Museums Association's Digital Professional Development course, MARC, Museum Accessioning and Registration of Collections. This online course is made possible with funding from the National Endowment for the Humanities. To learn more about OMA and how we are empowering museums, visit okmuseums.org. In this video, you will learn about OMA's guidelines relating to abandoned property. As a legal note, this information is specific to the state of Oklahoma. Laws and guidance will vary by state and jurisdiction. Here is OMA's MARC Pro and your course instructor, Karen Whitecotton.
The state of Oklahoma does not have an abandoned property law pertaining specifically to museums. The most effective way to prevent having abandoned property at your museum is to be vigilant in the receipt of signed deed of gift forms. Refer to the following guidelines for a best practice model. We'll cover a few definitions first. Abandoned property includes items deposited with, delivered to, or left on the premises of a museum without adequate documentation as to the source and type of transfer under circumstances of apparent abandonment. Items of abandoned property are commonly referred to as doorstep donations. Loans include on-loan and loaned items. This is property held by or maintained in the possession of a museum with the understanding that the lender intends to retain title to the property and that the museum must return physical possession of the property to the lender at some point in the future. Unclaimed property includes loans of property made to the museum that the museum would like to return but is unable to do so because of an inability to locate the lender or because the museum cannot for some reason return the property to the lender. Items of unclaimed property are commonly referred to as old loans. Undocumented property includes property, materials, artifacts, and other items that become part of the museum collection without adequate documentation regarding acquisition, and as a result, legal title may not be clear, may be uncertain, and may become subject to dispute. Undocumented property is often referred to as property found in collections. Unclaimed and undocumented property has been held in many museums in Oklahoma for decades. In many instances, the museums acquired the property before the now customary use of donor agreements, loan agreements, temporary deposit forms, and other documentation. With questionable legal title to unclaimed and undocumented property, museums can only make limited use of these items while bearing the responsibility and cost of providing storage space, climate control, security, inventory control, insurance, conservation, records maintenance, and other services or resources. In order to create certainty, promote uniformity, and manage the risks, responsibilities, and costs relating to unclaimed and undocumented property, museums should properly document every loan, gift, bequest, purchase, or other acquisition of property, expeditiously resolve concerns relating to the title and ownership of unclaimed and undocumented property left in their custody, and work with the lender, donor, or seller to create documentation for property that is undocumented. For old loans, the museum should notify the lender of the museum's intent to terminate the loan. Include a statement that the museum is terminating the loan, along with a request that the lender contact the museum within 60 days. If the lender does not respond within 60 days, the museum should send a second letter with the same information as the first letter, again asking the lender to contact the museum within 60 days. If at the end of the second 60-day period, the lender has still not responded, the museum should consider sending a third letter stating that the museum has determined, based on the lender's failure to respond to the two prior letters, that the lender has donated the property as of the date of the third letter and that the museum claims title to and ownership of the property. Unclaimed and undocumented property, also known as found in collections. The museum should document the length of time that the museum has held the property. Documentation may include inventories, catalog records, dated photographs, correspondence, or other records of ownership, maintenance, or possession. This provides the museum a timeline to use later if the museum wants to claim ownership of the property. For example, by noting that undocumented property was found in the museum's collection in September of 2012, the museum now has a record that it proceeded to claim title to the property in 7 years, which would be September of 2019. The museum should consider giving public notice of intent to claim title to the property. Publish notice in a newspaper of general circulation in the area where the museum is located at least once a week for 3 consecutive weeks. Include a statement that if written proof of claim is not presented to the museum by the current owner, and if the owner's right to receive the property is not established to the museum's satisfaction within 180 days after the date of the third public notice, the museum will consider the property to have been abandoned and will claim ownership of the property. Publish a similar notice on the museum's website. Oklahoma law does not provide certainty, and this procedure does not guarantee that the museum will acquire title to the property. Museums should consult with their own legal counsel for advice and direction in these circumstances. For abandoned property, also known as doorstep donations, document the abandonment of the property. Generally, the museum may presume that any unsolicited item of property left at a museum from an unknown source is a gift if no one claims ownership within 1 year. Decide whether the property should be held as part of the museum's permanent collection or whether the museum should dispose of it. Thank you for watching this Oklahoma Museums Association MARC course video. Additional MARC course videos and materials are available online at okmuseums.org. Funding for this digital education series was provided by the National Endowment for the Humanities. Opinions expressed in this video are those of OMA. These opinions and additional online materials are not a substitute for legal advice. At the time of recording, all information was accurate based on the source material. Please consult your legal counsel or knowledgeable nonprofit tax professional for detailed advice based on your unique institution. Thanks for watching.